on my clock, so good. All right, so today is a very exciting topic for us. Actually, this is something that we work quite deeply with investors to try to continuously get in the state of flow. And we're going to talk about, what is flow? What is that feeling that people talk about when you get into a task so deeply and you're so focused? And in fact, many of you might also recall being in flow. You might not have realized that you were in a flow state, but when you were a child perhaps, or just think of the last time that you were doing something something really that was really exciting. The hours were passing by, you weren't even noticing the people around you, if there was anybody around you. Sometimes you don't even feel hungry because you're just so focused and engaged with the activity at hand. And this can happen when we're writing, when we are creating something. It doesn't always necessarily need to be artistic. It could be working on a project. It could be doing Excel sheets for some of us. I know my business partner, he gets excited about these things. So, it can be doing a sport, etc. So this is some of the things we're talking about. And lately, companies and organizations have found that, in fact, by incorporating flow into their spaces, essentially, and by encouraging employees to continuously get into that state of flow and provide the environment for them to do so, they've realized there's a lot of drive towards productivity and essentially just output in the workplace, and as well as just feeling good as well. So, all right, so I see we have more people join. Thank you guys, welcome. So I would like to bring my business partner, Ivan Palomino. He's gonna join us in just a moment. And we have good news and bad news. So the bad news is that, I don't know, do we start with good news or bad news? I don't know. But the not so great news is that, unfortunately, our speaker is having technical difficulties and we're waiting for him to try different things. So I'm really hoping he'll jump in just a few minutes. However, the good news is that Ivan and I know this topic very well. And although we were really looking forward to Marco being here with us, he's just not able to log on, so he's still trying. So he could be joining us any moment. Until then, Ivan and I are going to do our best to deliver this session to you guys. Again, this is something we know, we study it, we research it, so we would be happy to give you guys the content and also answer any questions you may have about this. So Ivan, you want to introduce yourself real quick?
This is great. In fact, it was unexpected that we are going to handle this alone. But the good thing is, as you mentioned, is that we have been in our practice using the concept of flow in order to increase the productivity in the workplace. Now, myself, together with Elena, I am the co-founder of PESER, the organization Thrive Work in order to improve the productivity and the well-being of organizations.
Great. So
I have the impression that there is an echo, Elena. Is it right?
I don't hear an echo. Hopefully the attendees do. If you guys hear an echo, just drop us a note. I don't hear an echo. I think I'm okay. Oh yeah, Ivan, your voice is on high echo. Yes, so your voice is on high echo, Ivan. If you want to, I think it's okay. Can you talk a little bit more?
Yes, I can talk a little bit more. So let's jump, now, Elena, to the core of the topic. In fact, so one of the things that is happening in the workplace, according to the recent CIPD 2020 well-being report, is that there is a growing concern for employers regarding the state of well-being. In fact, that is driven by the people's health risks in terms of psychological problems. So the top issues, in fact, that we see in the workplace that cause mental health symptoms at work are, for instance, too many priorities. 52% of the people says that they cannot leave. There is overtime. They are not supported in their current role. They have negative relationships. There is a lack of trust, that the organization is poorly managed. In fact, the change in organization is poorly managed. And the question that the core of the problem is that companies are investing millions of dollars in basic trainings that are supposed to cover these issues in terms of efficiency, in terms of connectivity between peers, trust, and in fact, they are investing quite a lot, in fact, to transition to new business model to transform their organization. So it's almost like the medicine that corporations are using are not covering their main concern. Now, another thing that is quite interesting in terms of the problematic of the workplace is that the impact in the bottom line of organizations of mental health is quite huge. As a comparison, I would like just to highlight that in the UK, approximately 42 to 45 billion pounds are the financial impact of mental health. 42 to 45 billion pounds, in fact, is close to the Serbian yearly GDP. So this is quite substantial. And out of this, in fact, we have approximately 64% of this cost that is due to presenteeism. Presenteeism is defined basically for people who come, they show up to work, and they cannot work. They are too tired. They have spent a stressful night. They don't have all their sleep, so they sit in front of the computer, but basically they are not productive enough for the company. So this cost is quite substantial. Now, there is a guy.
Yes. But I'm curious, I want to pause here for a moment, actually. So I think that also, for those that just joined, because I saw just a couple of people logged on, for those that just joined, I think it's also important to sort of demystify the idea about flow. So oftentimes, and from what people define as flow, which is that focus, creativity, right? And something I mentioned in the beginning is when you're just so focused and engaged in an activity that you don't see the world around you. And it almost feels like you're in this meditative state. And in fact, it's not really that. And, and it's something that, in fact, everybody can, it's something that everybody can essentially get into. So the state of flow is something that everybody can get into. And there's a lot of myth behind it to say that flow is only for specific individuals and specific settings. And in fact, it's not the reality. All of us can experience flow at one point or another. It's really about taking the steps to get into that flow state. And as you were mentioning, Yvonne, in terms of well-being at work, when it comes to practicing our well-being at work, part of that is being present and focused and sort of removing all the distractions that we might be experiencing due to stress and anxiety in the workplace. So having that flow state essentially is very helpful. So talk to us a little bit about, so you can go deeper a bit more in terms of, actually implementing it in the flow state, like at work, the flow state.
Yeah, so, but for this, we need to define a little bit a framework. So there is a researcher called Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. Is one of the most difficult names to pronounce, in fact, in positive psychology, who has done a lot of research in terms of flow, defining that people fully employing the core capabilities to meet their goals or challenge creates what we call flow. And he has defined, in fact, 3 categories of that structure the possibility to allow people, in fact, to enter into this state of flow. One of the categories is that influences flow in the workplace is the IQ or having the possibility to have a clarity of the role, understanding of what they have to achieve, and easy access to the knowledge and resources needed to get the job done. This is the initial part. The second part that is necessary in order to enter into this state of flow is the emotional intelligence. But it is a little bit more bigger, in fact, than the usual or traditional definition of the emotional intelligence. We are talking about trust and respect, constructive conflict, even sense of humor, a general feeling that we are in this together. The third element that influences the creation of productive, focused organizations is what we call the meaning coefficient, the MQ. By meaning, we mean that we imply a feeling that the actions that we are doing really matters. That what is being done has not been done before, or that we can make the difference to others by doing this a set of actions. So, and the important thing here, out of the three categories that we have mentioned, the capabilities, the IQ, the connectivity, the emotional, the EQ, and the meaning coefficient, is that the meaning coefficient is something that has the most influence for people. And research shows, in fact, that productivity is increased up to 5 times just by having the MQ at its peaks. So this is something that it is quite, in fact, important that it is not very often recognized by corporations, but it is often mentioned as something that, like a weakness or a gap that in corporation, it is that we lack of meaning, purpose, and this is something that is quite difficult to be implemented.
Yes, and actually I want to take this moment because Marco is online and he should be able to join us. Marco, can you hear us?
Yes, Elena, I'm there, and I listened very carefully, very interested to the nice presentation.
Yes, Marco, welcome.
To show your face in with the camera.
Yes, I'm not sure if he's able to because of the way he logged on, so I'm not sure if we'll be able to see. I'll try to see if I can. We're not able to see Marco, unfortunately, because of because he logged in from the other side. So that's all right. Marco, welcome. Marco, can you tell our audience just a brief background about you and then jump in the discussion with us?
Yeah, well, it's a pleasure. Yeah, I have two patients. One is medicine, and for this reason, I decided some years ago to study medicine in order to understand everything about brain. Brain is my first obsession. And the second.
Sorry, now he can have access to camera. Sorry, guys, I'm playing around in the back here. Okay, Marco, you should be able to turn on your camera. I made it work. All right. Sorry to. Should be able to. Oh no, there he is. All right. All right.
This is
Sorry.
great.
Oh, I didn't realize it was going to cut you off. Sorry. Go ahead. Welcome.
Yeah. I was just telling that, so I started studying medicine because I want to know everything about brain. And the second patient that I started to have during my medical school and later on was related to human behavior. So why are we thinking in this way, and how can we just transform our life with the power of thinking and having the right internal attitude. And for some reasons that I don't want to discuss today, I realized that I was doing quite well during my medical school and also during my job in the hospital, and also later also in the pharmaceutical industry. I tried to understand why I was so able to be so efficient and so resilient, also in consideration of the fact that I was working as an Italian, for example, in West Berlin, and in comparison to other people, it seems they had more difficulties with the environment, with integration. So I'm starting to reflect on myself, and I discover that one of the basic traits of my personality, of my mindset, that I was very able to focus. And so there was a natural evolution. Then moving from how to be focused, I discovered the neuroscience about this state of consciousness. Basically, a flow is the neuroscience of how to be focused and more productive in spite of many distractions. So I think this is a good answer for you and for the audience.
Better introduction than I would have made. So it's a great way to plug into the conversation as well. So we've been talking, you might have heard us kind of talking a bit about, what is flow and sort of the impact on organizations, but come from a perspective, a little bit of science. So what actually happens with our brains when we enter the state of flow? So what is the actual benefits, like you said, what is it that makes us so focused? Is there a secret? Is there like a magic formula that we can implement? Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yes, well, great question, and I'm very thankful that you asked this from the very beginning. So basically, so you have asked me two important things. So the first of all, what it happened from, for example, from the neurological point of view, and this is a very important question because it helps all to understand that there is a lot of research behind flow, and basically the key message that I want to give to you is there is a convergency into this insight, into this principle that during flow, a specific part of the brain, which is the prefrontal dorsolateral cortex, which is basically a part of our brain in our prefrontal. Prefrontal means in the front of the brain, and during flow, this important part of our brain is shut down, and due to this fact, we are able to be completely immersed in what we are doing. We feel that we lose the sense of time, and we can be 100% concentrate on what we are doing, and we have also access to our creativity, to our imagery, and this is why flow, that people that are in flow are more creative and more productive, and are capable also to develop more creative solutions. So if you want, in a normal state, in a normal state as we are talking to now, so we have the prefrontal, which is very active. It is like the CEO of our brain. It's a chief executive officer, and this is a control function. And the CEO say, so you have to do this, and you have to do this, and so on. And you are capable to interact with the environment. In the flow, this part of the brain is shut down, and you can like be in a state of deep connection with yourself, and at the same time with the surrounding, and you have also an intrinsic reward. So this is, for example, why people experience a sense of purpose and fulfillment, which make the people more motivated, no matter what the boss or no matter what the people in the surrounding are saying.
Very interesting. I don't know, I'm excited about flow. I mean, it seems that so many of us actually get into flow without realizing it. So how can we actually intentionally do it? And better yet, before we even go into how do organizations implement flow, because that's important, right? So how do you actually encourage this in a workplace? But there are some myths about flow and facts. So what are some truths and some myths? I mentioned a couple earlier, but I think you probably have a lot more to add as well. So what are some myths and truths about the state of flow, if there's anything else you want to add there?
Yes, I think that flow, so first of all, flow is a natural cognitive function that everyone has. So for example, no matter whether people are living in European country or maybe in Europe, part of the world, or in the US, flow is basically a natural cognitive function that the brain has developed over millions of years to make the best use of the brain. So it's like an efficiency optimizing machine cognitive functions. Basically, it helps you to consume low energy and have a very good outcome. So you consume low energy but you are in high performer. So basically, this is the one message, and everyone can reach that. The real problem is that because of this digital technology, because of this all social media, the brain is addicted to all this equipment. Every time when you open your Instagram or your Twitter, you get a flash of dopamine. Okay, so that means that most of the people now worldwide are getting addicted to this kind of short reward, which is coming from this push-ups message and so on. So the brain starts to be addicted to this kind of information impulses that are coming from outside. So now the challenge, but also the big gain that you can have. Flow helps you to cure your addiction to this automatism, so to this kind of things that the social media, the advertising agency are giving to you, and flow helps you to do one thing at a time, one thing after the other, without getting distracted, and keep focus and keep control on your life again. Of course, this is not this is not easy the beginning, because, for example, I think that many of us, for example, when we wake up in the morning, the first thing that we do, I think 900% of the people listening to it, is to take the iPhone, and then you get the first flash of dopamine. Yeah, and flow, if you want, this is the pill, this is the natural treatment against this dopamine addiction.
Okay, interesting. So
Marco,
always we can practice flow. Yes, Ivan, go ahead.
Marco, I wanted to ask you, so very often, in fact, we see people around mixing the concept of flow and meditation. So how can we differentiate both journeys, in fact, for people?
Yeah. This question is I think is crucial, and kept me busy for a long time, because, for example, I want to understand everything what is happening during meditation, and I've done a lot of meditation, yoga, mindfulness, and just because I am a very active person, and I have also a very active mind, I was always frustrated, because when meditating I was relaxed, but then I felt always the separation between being and doing. So in simple terms, when you are meditating, you are just in a corner, you are alone, but you are not doing anything. So you're just meditating, and then maybe you go to work, and then you have your environment, and you get stressed. So everything what I've learned during meditation was not useful for my operational and active part of my daily life. So now, one of the reasons why I am so passionate about flow, because flow comes into action, and is the magic intersection between being and feeling and relaxed, but also doing things in the right way. So it's the magic intersection between being and doing. That means I am relaxed, and I can tell you also what is happening from the neurological point of view. So when I am in a state of flow, if I would have an electroencephalogram, so a machine with measuring my brain waves, I will have in a flow state a mix of slow alpha waves that we have, for example, when we wake up and we are just between, let's say, when we start to drink our first espresso in the morning. So we have this slow wave, and then the other slower waves, delta and theta, comes also into action. That means that you have a perfect mix of waves that allow you to do something, but in a relaxed way. And the delta and theta waves are the waves that have been detected, for example, in Zen master that have a lot of experience in meditation. So it's just a sort of meditation in action. And this is the difference between just meditating and being in flow. When you are meditating, you are just there, you cannot do anything. Being in flow, you are capable to do fantastic things. And for example, people have produced new products, have produced a new service, started to write a new book, and they say to me, Marco, I will never have this kind of idea without being flow.
Very interesting. And I see you guys' questions, so keep dropping the questions. We'll get to them in just a few minutes. So you can start dropping your questions for Dr. Marco and Yvonne and myself. So use the chat box. You can drop your comments and questions in the question box. It's fine. Marco, let me just also. So it's super interesting what organizations can do, but let's take it to the individual. So it sounds like to get into flow, that it might help us to develop some routines, maybe some tricks and strategies to actually get us into that state. So can you talk a little bit about, as individuals, what is the step-by-step essentially to get into that state of flow?
Great question. This is a great question because when you want to really to change something under the assumption that you are convinced that it's worthy to change something, the basic solution is you have to create a new habit. Okay, we are the results of our thoughts, we are the results of our action, and we are the results of our habit. So that means you need another habit, and we can call this the flow habit. And this means that, for example, if you have never done something like that, you have to, for example, you can, for example, use your smartphone, and you can, for example, make design your daily plan, your daily routine, so that you have always a very good structure of your daily structure. For example, I can tell you, I use what I learned from Steve Kotler, who is one of the pioneer person that has studied flow with his Flow Gym project, and he speaks about structuring the day in flow phases. Okay, so I start my daily day with a sort of activation. For example, I'm making some workout outside, and from 5 till 8 o'clock. Then I go work, and then I have this activation phase where I'm ready to do things that require intensive communication. And then at 12 o'clock, I have my power nap, which means that I have 20 minutes, I close my eyes, I just sit in the corner, I listen to music and just having, just relaxing. And then there is the relaxation phase from 1 o'clock till 5 o'clock, and then I stop work at 5 o'clock every day. I don't want to work anymore, and then I go into the recovery phase in where I prepare my brain to relax and to have a good sleep. The flow research say that if you want really to be always at high performance, you need at least 7 hours sleep every day. Okay, so this is my structure. This is my day. And at the beginning, it was challenging because I had another kind of rhythm, but I had to develop this discipline to keep this constant 4-phase structure in my life. And the big benefit that I want to share now with you and with people is that just because our brain and our body needs recovery and recharging moments, I think that, well, I've never got something like burnout or depression. I've been living for 30 years, more than 30 years in Germany, and I'm very satisfied with my career. And I must say the truth, I will never have got all this success and all this achievement without this kind of discipline. And now coming back to your question, flow is something that you can have during the day. So I create some mini rituals in order to have mini flow circles every day. And the way to create the habit is, for example, to have in the smartphone, maybe let's say 20-30 minutes. I write in my smartphone, okay, now Marco, now it's 11 o'clock, and then I get a push-up signal. This is now the mini flow cycles time, and I do everything that helps me to enter this flow, which can be, for example, doing something and listening to meditation music, or maybe just going out from the office and walking a little bit around in nature. And this is just the mini flow cycles every day. And I am doing this 5 or 6 times per day. Okay, because many people think that if you want to have this, you have to invest a lot of time and make a lot of effort. The smarter things is that when you start to create a new habit, this habit should be part of your ritual and daily rhythms, and you just insert this as you would transplant a new habit in your daily routine, using, for example, smartphone.
Marco, what I understood is that basically what you're saying is that anyone, myself or anyone in the audience, can practically start practicing flow with devoting 2 to 5 minutes per day as of tomorrow. It is not as a complex process. It is a bunch of small little actions that we can start as of tomorrow, basically, right?
Right, and this is a very important point, because it helps to remind that this flow cognitive process is not something which belongs only to some social context or to some extraordinary people or journal persons. This is in every one of us. And in order to convince you, or I want just to share with you with thoughts, there is for sure one time when we all can remember how the flows was, and this was the time when we were playing as children. Okay, so when we were children, we were painting things, we were playing with Lego bricks, we were playing with other people, and these are the first flow moments that we have experienced in this childhood. So it's about to come back to this status, and again, this is something natural. And the second point is, you need a very strong intention, and you have to be convinced that this is important for your life. And otherwise, this new habit will compete with all the other things that you have in your mind. And if you start the day, for example, focus, it helps to accomplish in some things that are relevant to you every day. Okay, so for example, my best flow protocol is, I have my vision dream board. This is the dream board of the things that I want to reach in this year. Okay, so my victories in 2020, and I work every day using this flow state to achieve these goals, and flow helped me to achieve these goals every day. Okay, every day, no matter whether what it happens in the environment. And again, there must be a very strong intention that you want this, and you have to develop a feeling that it helps you to become the best version of yourself, and to achieve an extraordinary life.
You know what I love about this is the fact that, as you mentioned, we've been in the States since we were kids, but because with science now, what we know from science and brain scans and just how how we behave as humans, we can now say that this is backed by science, that this approach works. And what you mentioned is that it's really those 5 to 10 minutes. And again, science backs up the fact that it doesn't need to be this huge step. It just needs to be that little step. And as you mentioned, every single day, because it's about consistency. And what you're doing in those 5 to 10 minutes, if I understand you correctly, is that you're almost training your brain, you're getting that reward as well. So you want to get into that state again and again and again, and then essentially to wherever you want to go. So I love that. And just to follow up on that as well, so as individuals, if we're able to get into that state, organizations would want us to be in that state as well. So how can organizations start using flow, for example? Is there a way to create an environment for flow? Is there, like, what are the strategies for leadership, for example, to help employees to get into that?
Yeah, a great question. For example, in the US, the flow research has led to some big achievements. For example, listening to Steve Kotler and hearing from the kind of transformation that they have that they have experienced in some companies. So, for example, he's always reporting about the study where McKinsey, using flow, McKinsey found out that there was a 500% increase in productivity in executive who had regular access to the flow states. Or, for example, the University of Sydney, they have used flow in the students, and there was a 530% increase in creative problem solving. So I think that the big organization, they need to understand, first of all, that flow is not just meditation, but flow helps organization and teams to have a team with high performance, and at the end there is an overall increase of productivity with a decrease also of level of illness. And maybe I just open a little bit a window on that. We know that there is worldwide an increased number of people that get depression, that get maybe burnout, or maybe also commit suicide. The reason for that is that these people are always living a sort of future anxiety. Many of these people are always having a kind of chronic anxiety and fears about things that will happen. Okay, it's this future anxiety, and flow helps again to be concentrate on the moment. And if you want, flow is one of the best antidepressive. Is better than Prozac. It's better than any antidepressant because it's efficacious and has no side effect. And so these are two arguments for the organization to say it's worthy to do that. And now coming back to your question, for example, I had many discussions with top managers, and the way how I have been able to convince them is that basically it brings an increase of productivity, is something that everyone can do during the day. For example, at lunchtime, and in some of these companies, I've been able, for example, to convince the organization to have a flow coach or a flow manager who was completely dedicated in implementing the flow protocols that I have developed. And in Germany, for example, we have even companies that are producing flow apps. A flow app is just a flow app that just register the score that you have. So at the beginning, you can enter some dates and you get your flow score. And then this app help you with meditation, with exercise to increase your flow score. And some of this app has been even supported and financed by corporations, this at least here in Germany. So, and I think that this will probably change. I see this development here in Europe, at least in Germany, but also in other countries, because at the end of the day, there is, I think that corporations are facing this problem, that there is an increase in financial pressure. The COVID-19 pandemic situation has also led to this situation that many people have lost their job. So there is a lower number of people now that have to do more work than before. And many traditional leaderships model are just not working. What people need, and we know that also money is not what really motivates you to do the work. What really motivates the work is to have an environment where you can be focused, you can accomplish your goals, have a sense of fulfillment, and also share the joy of being in team with others. And I think that this could really make the difference in many organizations.
Absolutely. And you know what's interesting is that there's a couple of reports that are saying, you know, in fact, when you're working in an organization, I mean, now many of us are working from home, but when we are inside organizations, one of the top distractions, in fact, are your colleagues. So I'm curious, it would be probably really interesting to have like a little flow sign, Sam and flow, don't interrupt, you know, in organizations, because in fact, individuals at work are the ones that are the most distracted for us. Which actually brings me to a question from the audience. So Marco, what are your suggestions to accomplish consistency in flow alongside avoiding online distractions, news feeds, notifications, etc.? So how do we actually stop that from entering the flow state?
Okay, very, very good question, because this is also this is the approach that I use every day. And maybe I would say that there is a similarity also with the habit in eating, okay, in a diet eating. So I think that the best thing is to have an intermittent fasting of social media. So what is an intermittent fasting? It means that, for example, when I start the day and after my activation phase, I come into the struggle phase where I want to push things, which is between 9 and 11 o'clock in the morning. So in this struggle, in this active part, I want to be focused. I don't want to be distracted, and I am very pragmatic. I just close the door in my office, and I switch off my iPhone, and I'm working at least for 1 hour with no interaction on the things that I want to accomplish. And these are the main things that are important for the business. And then I open the door again, and then the colleagues can come, and then I can have again these interactions, and then I make another break. Again, total focus. The people at the beginning, they thought, well, Marco, why are you so in that way? I said, well, because I am in my flow time. Okay, so intermittent fasting, it means that you're working in your focus modus, and then you act in the same way. So you have all your social media, you go into the kitchen, we speak to the people, and then you have another mini flow cycles. And I'm doing this for 5 or 6 times every day. So this is the most pragmatical and easy way to have a good balance between active socializing and flow moments.
It is almost like you are removing anything that prevents you to achieve your specific goal, and you are facilitating everything that makes it easier, in fact. So everything that disturbs, mobile, out, far away, blocking my time, and then facilitating, that means a little bit more of planning about what is the objective or the meaning of what the task that I want to achieve, so that I can prepare the land to be completely into the state of flow.
And yeah, very, very good point. And for example, I have a very practical tool. For example, some years ago, I was struggling at the beginning, especially in the first part of the day on Monday. I was struggling because I got new information from everywhere. So I had my private iPhone, I had my emails, I had colleagues, and I had always to take a decision what I'm doing first. So now the tool that I have is I have just a file where I have the things that I need to work on that day in the first part of the day. So these are the 3 main projects, and it's just paper. Why paper? Because if I'm writing on paper, I avoid to look into internet. So that means that, for example, when I am in a focus modus, I work on paper and I switch off iPhone, I switch off the computer, the door is closed, and just concentrating on that task. And then after the flow is finished, I open again and I play again with the technology.
You know what it sounds like? So as both of you are talking, I keep thinking two things. I said consistency and discipline. And I feel like that is what is needed. And I think often as individuals, some of the individuals I work with sometimes is that we're all looking for this magic solution to get focused, and we're all looking, we want to spend hours and hours doing all this productive work. But in fact, it just comes down to, as you guys have been saying, it's cutting out those small times, it's being consistent with it. And if you make it little by little, you will stay consistent. And that will also help you keep motivated and will help you be disciplined as well. So if there was a magic formula to getting focused, it would be consistency and discipline through implementation of sort of tiny habits, you can call them, right? And getting into that flow state, essentially. So this is really good. I'm curious to hear from our audience. So this is a good time to drop questions. We do have another question at Yvonne. If you can just give a little bit of, or maybe Marco as well, if you have a little bit of information on this. Somebody is intrigued to know more about meaning coefficient. If there's any practical resources you learn more on it, online or offline, if there's anything you can recommend, Yvonne, about meaning coefficient.
So regarding the meaning, in fact, there is a huge recommendation, and it is a book. The book Drive by Daniel Pink. In fact, he talks a little bit about the purpose, which is very similar to the sense of meaning or knowing why you are doing something and how it can contribute to the rest of the people, to the society, your community, or even to yourself. And it has been recognized and very much discussed in organizations that, specifically for younger generations like Generation Z, the fact that meaning cannot be acquired through money, and I think Marco even mentioned it just before. Meaning is achieved by knowing that the company that you are working for is doing something that is positive for the society and yourself. And this is even more important for younger generations compared to my generation, which was a little bit more focused on the salary, on the money, on the status. And yes, there is ways, in fact, to build up meaning by reuniting an organization behind a cause. And there is many startups who have been quite successful behind that. There are certain big companies that have started to work on that go beyond just good salaries or good compensation systems in order to make that people are behind a cause, changing the world, impacting the world. I have even heard that tobacco companies are trying to do that today. So there is some ways. So, and if there is a recommendation for readings, Daniel Pink, Drive. This is one of the best books that is written about the link between motivation and purpose in organizations.
May add something to what Ivan said in a great manner. So I like your comments. I just want to add something which helped me quite a lot in the situation. For example, I came from Tuscany to West Berlin, completely being in a different social environment. I moved first of all from the university environment into the pharmaceutical. Then I had my own agency. So I had in my life many times where I always asked to myself, trying to give a very sincere answer, what is really my ultimate goal? And so what is meaning? What is meaningful to me, no matter what other people? And so a very good tool that I discovered is this one. So for example, the meaning in life is what you find at the intersection between your passions, your skills, and the purpose that you can give to your work. And this is, I think, a magic formula that I hope that can help people listen to.
Definitely, Marco. This is beautiful.
And we're just waiting for a couple more questions to come through. And while we do that, I wanted to bring you attention that if you want to get in touch with Dr. Marco, this is his website right there. You can just scan it. Of course, you can stay in touch with us at Bestern by scanning the QR code. We provide a lot of different free resources for individuals and organizations, so feel free to get in touch with us. Definitely follow Dr. Marco on LinkedIn as well. Drop him a message. Tell us what you thought about this webinar as well. Let us know. And for me, some of the key takeaways, at least, were, that flow can be accessed for just about anybody, essentially, and that it's just about giving it a shot and trying it each day, day in, day out, and creating that routine that really works well. And I can see a lot of impact for organizations, because just imagine a world where we are continuously in the flow state, all of us, and we're able to be productive, we're able to feel the meaning and the purpose in our organizations, and thus we are more productive. So it seems like a win-win-win for me in this case. So definitely great insights, Marco, Yvonne, thank you so much for that. Yvonne, anything from you?
Listen, I just wanted to get back to something that I mentioned early on. It is that these three elements that that impacts productivity and well-being at work. I think it is Dr. Michel Kali. Okay, I cannot pronounce it correctly. Marco, you can, but anyways. So there is three elements that are quite important. It's about understanding your capabilities, the IQ, in fact, how in order to achieve mastery of the task or the job that you are doing. There is the element of emotional intelligence. How do you interact and you feel that you are in a trustful environment? The third element, it goes into this the sense of purpose. Why are you doing what you are doing? And if you have the three things together, and if you devote, I don't know, tomorrow you decide to have the 5 minutes of your time where you are going to understand the gaps that you have in these three elements, this is the beginning of a good journey to understand how you can enter into flow and practice it in a daily basis. Dr. Marco, anything from your side?
Well, what can I say? You Elena, Ivan, you have said great things with a really proper sense of wisdom. I just allow myself to say an additional comment. So one of the benefits I have always felt during the years is so flow says flow gives this intrinsic sense of motivation. So you get your inner reward from inside. It's just living from inside out and not just reacting from the outside world. And I think that this is the biggest gift that we can get from this cognitive technique. Basically, it means that you get again an internal sense of coherency. Everything what you are doing and feeling is aligned. And this sense of internal coherency is what makes you happy from inside out. And I think this is exactly what we need in this modern time, where we are so fragmented and we are so disrupted from the psychological point of view, and flow helps again to find the oneness in ourselves.
This is great.
I could not have ended it on a better note. So on perfect note, this is the end of the webinar. Again, big thank you, gratitude to you, Dr. Marco, to our audience. Thank you for joining. Thank you for your questions. And stay in touch, and we will see you next time.